Scaffidi, WTMJ News.
Weekend graduation ceremonies saw dozens of walkouts in protest over the Israel-Hamas war. At Duke University's graduation Sunday, a group of students walked out during comedian Jerry Seinfeld's commencement address. In New Jersey, about 60 Rutgers University students walked out of their graduation ceremony with a similar scene playing out on the West Coast at UC Berkeley. Decision Wisconsin, a pivotal state Supreme Court hearing concerning ballot boxes, begins today.
Less than 2 years ago, the court's conservative majority ruled voters casting absentee ballots would not be able to drop them in boxes located anywhere except the offices of election clerks. Now that court's liberal majority will hear oral arguments to resolve whether the 2022 ruling was incorrectly decided. Under that ruling, only the state legislature has the power to enact laws and policy regarding absentee ballot drop boxes, and not the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Adam Roberts, WTMJ News.
It's another day in court for former President Donald Trump as his criminal hush money trial resumes in New York. Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen expected on the stand today. Trump's accused of falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment that Cohen made to adult film actress Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Bribery trial of New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez starts today with jury selection.
Saying he's looking forward to proving his innocence, New Jersey U.S. Senator Bob Menendez is charged with taking bribes, including gold bars, wads of cash, and a Mercedes to help send aid and weapons to Egypt and Qatar, and to stop a federal case against a friend and businessman. He's rejected calls to resign, though he has conceded to not running in the New Jersey primary as a Democrat for a seat, leaving open the possibility of an independent run. Menendez's wife Nadine is also charged, but will be tried separately and later this summer due to health reasons. Derek Dennis, ABC News.
And air quality alerts in effect for much of central and northern Wisconsin today. Storm Team 4 meteorologist Tyler Moore says it's due to a familiar issue from last summer.
The reason why we have these is actually some Canadian wildfire smoke that's dipped south. You might have noticed it over the weekend as well, because it has been hanging in the atmosphere the last couple of days from some early season wildfires off to the north.
While some of the smoke could reach southeast Wisconsin, it's not expected to affect the ground level. Your complete WTMJ 5-day forecast coming up in less than 5 minutes. Record number of drivers could be hitting the roads Memorial Day weekend, the beginning of the summer travel season. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez.
AAA believes that drivers will set a record with 38.4 million people traveling by car. That's the highest number since AAA began tracking in 2000. 4% more than last year, almost 2% more than 2019. Gas prices, they are going to be similar to last year. The national average right now, $3.62 a gallon.
Time for some news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Up arrows on Wall Street. The Dow is up 118 points and the Dow is up, 102 points. The Nasdaq is up 36 points. The S&P 500 is up 7. It's a great time for your retirement and investment strategy review from a fee-only fiduciary. Go to annexwealth.com and click the Get Started button now. Sports, traffic, and weather are next. Citing Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 9:04.
Vince Vitrano for Absolute Comfort HVAC and Electrical. I'm joined by Nicole. She and her husband Brent own the company. Nicole, why should folks call you guys?
Because we treat your home like ours. That means honest and high quality work. We want you to be a part of our family. We're there for your emergencies when you need it, but most important to us is building a long-term relationship for all of your HVAC and electrical needs.
Absolute Comfort HVAC and Electrical, 262-664-9284, yourcomfortguys.com.
Spring fishing is finally here, and Fleet Farm has everything you need to reel in more fish this year. Upgrade your gear with the best brands like Rapala, Berkeley, and St. Croix. Find exclusive flicker sheds you won't find anywhere else, starting at $12.99. Get rod and reel combos starting at only $24.99. And shop our wide selection of fishing line that starts at just $4.99. Land top fishing gear and everything else you need for everyday life at Fleet Farm.
Looking for a totally rad flavor adventure, brochachos? Look no further than Surfer Boy Pizza as seen in Stranger Things. Each mouth-watering variety contains rich tomato sauce, delicious mozzarella cheese, and a gnarly range of toppings. The crust is crispy on the outside and airy on the inside. You'll think it was hand-tossed by the Surfer Boy Pizza dudes themselves. Look for it in the freezer aisle at your local store and buckle up your taste buds with Surfer Boy Pizza.
Stay and play in Lake Geneva, the Midwest's premier golf destination. With 10 challenging courses for all abilities and skill levels, breathtaking views, crystal clear lakes, and rolling fairways. Enjoy an all-inclusive golf getaway with luxurious lodging, distinctive dining, and a relaxing spa. Plan a group golf outing, a corporate event, or a weekend getaway with friends or family. For course information and more, go to visitlakegeneva.com. Lake Geneva. It's always been the place for legendary golf.
Time for a WTMJ sports update from the Gruber Law Office's One Call That's All Sports Desk. The Cardinals avoided a 4-game sweep at the hands of the Brewers following a 4-3 win at the finale from Milwaukee. Brew Crews still lead the NL Central 24-16. They host the Pirates tonight. And the Bucks won't let their general manager head to an Eastern Conference rival. Milwaukee declined an interview request from the Pistons for John Horst. Take a look at your roads now with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons paving time-saver traffic. The ramp from I-41, 94 north to I-41 west, that right lane closed. There's a broken-down vehicle there. Watch for some slowing conditions there. I-43 northbound Layton into downtown, it's about a 12-minute drive. And I-43 southbound Brown Deer Road to downtown, that's going to take you closer to 15 minutes this morning.
Traffic is sponsored by the Heiser Automotive Group. For convenient car shopping and financing, visit Heiser Automotive Group at one of their 4 locations: Toyota, Chevy, Ford, Lincoln, and Cadillac. Or visit Heiser.com, because today's your day.
Here's your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Increasing cloudiness this afternoon. Afternoon showers, maybe even a storm. High 73, then the temperatures will fall. We've got a few showers possible overnight with a low 46. Early showers tomorrow, then decreasing cloudiness. Highs 54 to 64. Sunny on Wednesday. Highs in the lower to upper 60s. Thursday, increasing cloudiness. A chance of rain again. Highs 65 lakeside, 71 inland. Then partly cloudy Friday. A slight chance of rain. Highs in the upper 60s to the lower 70s. Madison right now 66, Green Bay 61, Milwaukee 70. I'm Connie Weber. Sighting Unlimited, WTMJ News Time 9:08.
Good morning, Wisconsin. So let's pour that coffee and talk to some experts about what's going on in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, and beyond. Broadcasting live from the Annex Wealth Management Studios at the Avenue in beautiful downtown Milwaukee. It's the Political Power Hour on WTMJ. Here's your host, Steve Scaffidi.
Should we talk about the government?
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday Show. I'm excited about this show. I got great guests today. Matt Smith. He is the guy in up front. He is the guy at Channel 12 doing all that political reporting. Political director at Channel 12, I should say.
Good morning. You butter up your guests pretty well on a Monday morning.
That's part of the process. And, of course, the brilliant writer, and you can see her work at the Journal Sentinel. JS Online also. Mary Spacuzza, always doing some great work on the journalistic writing side of things. All right, so we're going to start with... You're welcome. We're going to start with this big story. So I spent a lot of time on last week's show and all the various formats of this program. Political Power Hour is the name of the show, talking about that Microsoft story. We go back to 2017, 2018, when this was a Foxconn story that didn't really turn out the way we thought it was going to. Now, I don't have him put the death sentence on Foxconn because I think there's still some opportunity there. But Matt Smith had Brad Smith on the program.
No relation, by the way.
No relation.
Unfortunately.
You're not part of the Microsoft Corporation? No. So he talked to him. I want to play a little bit, and that'll tee up our conversation. Brad Smith, CEO of Microsoft.
If Foxconn wouldn't have happened, in terms of the infrastructure that's in place at the local level, would you have considered this site?
It's entirely possible that we would have considered southeastern Wisconsin, but no doubt we are the beneficiaries of that earlier effort. You know, the land that was initially acquired that we're now able to buy, even the electrical infrastructure, more will need to be built. You know, we're proposing to the Utility Commission a price that we'll pay so that we, in effect, pay for an expansion of the electrical grid. But we are building on what was started before, and no one should lose sight of that either.
In the scenario of the ways things could have turned out as good as possible, Mary, this is like a win in a site that we were all concerned about, right?
It is. I mean, I think quite a few of us covered then President Trump when he was here in 2018, talking about how this was going to be the, eighth wonder of the world,
yes.
I think.
It wasn't that.
Just watching, it didn't turn out that way. However, I think this is, obviously Microsoft was talking about it to Matt Smith, the one and only. I think President Biden is probably feeling like this is a win for him, too, that,
He was in town last week.
Right. And then President Trump talked it up. It didn't turn out that way. Now President Biden can swoop in and say, but look at this.
So do you buy the argument that Matt put out there that because of Foxconn, he asked the question, because of Foxconn, this allowed, Matt, the Microsoft development?
Yeah, I think Brad Smith said pretty explicitly that, if the land wasn't there and the infrastructure, you have to go back and remember, right? All of the money that locals invested into the new roads, to the electricity, to the water, everything they had to prepare as part of this deal for Foxconn. Microsoft said, listen, this was almost like a silver platter in terms of how and where we can build. And Foxconn has always said, especially in the most recent years, I was inside the facility a few months ago, and they said, yes, this did not turn out how we first promised. But now we hope that other companies may come in and potentially buy land that we held. And locals have said, and especially Republicans down in that area have said for a long time, just wait. Remember Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. That's what they're hoping for. And I think what they see with this Microsoft deal is kind of the first step in that, this first $3.3 billion project.
And Mary, as a former elected, one of the hardest things to convince voters, taxpayers, residents of is an investment. We did it on the interchange, Drexel Avenue interchange, allowing that whole area, that southern part of Milwaukee County, Drexel Town Square and the IKEA development to happen. For the folks in Racine County, they had that promise of Foxconn, and now finally, 7 years later, 8 years or 6 years later, we are seeing that it come to fruition. Isn't just a basic common understanding that if you invest in infrastructure, something good will happen? Do you think?
I think people are probably still a little skeptical. Time will tell. I think some people certainly felt burned, people who had to sell their houses or get forced out of their houses. I think there was a lot of kind of like, what's going to come of this and what's going to come of that big ball that kind of looked like the Epcot,
I like the big ball.
I like that one at Epcot. You just want to sit there empty, right? So you don't want to have like 4 staffers there. So I think that there is new optimism that this will pan out and actually be a huge win for southeastern Wisconsin. And I think there's new hope that is the case. Time will tell, obviously.
And Brad Smith acknowledged that. He said, listen, from a Microsoft perspective, because of what happened, he said, our goal is to underpromise and overdeliver. He said that multiple times. He goes, listen, we saw what happened. We understand the politics of this. And even if we segue into that, the whole Trump versus Biden, Democrat versus Republican is fascinating to watch play out to see who's going to try to take credit for what now, some less than 6 months away from Election Day.
The answer is they're all going to take credit.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter who's president. They're all going to take credit
all
for
of the above.
Mary Spacuzza, Matt Smith, we're just getting warmed up on the Monday edition of the Political Power Hour. After the break, it's going to be about turnout. It's an election year. If you don't know that, where you been? We'll find out what we think about Milwaukee voters, black voters, after this.
When we're out in your town, come say hi to us as we broadcast live from the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin mobile studio.
Anytime you hear us when we're out on the road, you can find us live from our brand new mobile studio.
Whether it be Summerfest, EAA, Opening Day, Air and Water Show,
wherever we may be, you can see us on the radio, live from the Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin mobile studio.
We are Wisconsin's radio station.
Wisconsin's radio station.
We are Wisconsin's radio station.
We are Wisconsin's radio station.
WTMJ.
Hey, this is WTMJ, Steve Scaffidi for Advent. Tossing and turning, snoring, restless nights of sleep. That doesn't have to be your reality. I said, I'm not putting up with this. I did something about it. I went to Advent. We did a really simple sleep study. In about a 30-minute visit with their docs, they figured it out for me. Now, everybody's different problems, different solutions. Mine was my sinuses and nasal passage and my breathing triangle. After a short procedure in office, back to breathing better than ever still, and this is years later. My wife and I sleeping through the whole night. Great, uninterrupted nights of sleep. That is a blessing, trust me. If you struggle with restless nights like I did, take the time to see how Advent can help you to find out how breathing well and sleeping well can make your nights better. Go to adventknows.com and schedule an appointment today, because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Good Karma Brands is proud to be an equal opportunity employer. Our policy is to provide equal opportunity employment, development, and advancement to all current and potential teammates. If you are an organization that maintains a job bank, provides employment information, or gives job referrals, you may request to be placed on the station's mailing list for future career opportunities. To learn more about careers at Good Karma Brands, please email careers@goodkarmabrands.com.
Here you got one going through court system, but running for president. Come on now, this is ridiculous.
And then the other one getting old, and he's not doing what he's supposed to do, and you don't know what side he's really going to be on. So.
But then
our
you do
job
get
is hard.
some who do kind of say, they will say like, well, if it did come down to it, they would vote for Joe because he gonna be gone up out of there soon, and then there go Pamela. So then they want that woman in office. Now she got a lot of support out there, but those two guys,
Our own Matt Smith talking to some black voters in Milwaukee. Matt Smith, host of Up Front, political director at Channel 12. Mary Spacuzza from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. All right, Matt, your interview, the sense of how is the turnout going to be this year? Democrats looking for a big Milwaukee turnout. I hear a lot about Dane County, not so much about Milwaukee.
No, at this point, there's a lot of concern among Democrats and among the Biden campaign. If, as we sit here today, they say, listen, I had an organizer with Block say, if we have this same level of enthusiasm, the same conversation at Labor Day, Milwaukee Democrats and the Biden campaign are in serious trouble ahead of November. You look at the New York Times poll just out this morning, Trump leading in 5 swing states, Biden leading here in Wisconsin, the only swing state, 47-45. But the overarching story of these swing state polls is black voters, young voters, Hispanic voters are not happy with what they see out of Biden, and they are major red flags going into November.
Mary? I mean, you look at this question. All right, so if you have Trump and Biden, I guess maybe it's my internal bias or my political bias. I can't see Milwaukee black voters voting for Donald Trump. I can't see it. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, anybody can do whatever they want.
I think that probably there's a lot of nervousness from both the Trump and the Biden campaigns. Obviously, Trump has struggled with suburban women, particularly after the abortion issue. I think that Biden has seen a lot of, just not a lot of enthusiasm from black voters in Milwaukee. Both of them facing severe enthusiasm gaps heading into November. So I got to think both camps are feeling pretty nervous right now.
You wonder if that will dictate trips by the president to Milwaukee, not other places, but to Milwaukee.
We have Vice President Kamala Harris here on Thursday, and in part she is going to meet with black voters, black small business owners. Specifically, that is the reason for her trip. The president in Racine last week meeting with black voters. You already see it playing out here on the ground in Wisconsin. And the question isn't necessarily, are they all going to go vote for Trump? It's, are they going to stay home? And that's the biggest concern, that a big segment of these voters are just going to stay home. We look at the turnout numbers, 77% in Milwaukee's black majority wards in 2012. We're down to like 58% in 2020, and there's no confidence that, at least as we sit here today, it's going to increase.
For either of you, what issue might drive black voters back to the polling place?
I mean, I think obviously when Hillary didn't come here in 2016, that did not help with enthusiasm. I think people need to feel like their interests are being represented. My husband was very surprised. He was out interviewing a lot of black voters for a story he did for New Republic, and he was surprised talking to people about, some of them said, Biden promised he was going to forgive my student loans. He tried, but it didn't get through. So even that, it got blocked by Republicans, but they still felt like he didn't come through with a promise. So it was interesting to see that there were people who were like, well, he tried and failed, but I might back Trump, who hasn't tried at all.
What about access to health care, abortion rights? I mean, those seems like issues that Milwaukee voters in general would cling on to.
That and the economy. It's, as Mary just referenced, these really basic at-home issues, the economic outlook. I think it's just 14% of black voters in Wisconsin right now say the economy is good or excellent. So there's 70 plus say the economy is not great. That's a major red flag. And what Republicans are trying to do, and the Trump campaign is trying to do, they're going to be doing doors in the north side of Milwaukee saying, listen, let's talk about this issue, this issue, this issue, this issue. they're going to argue that Democrats, they're not there for you. And the question for those voters is, are you really a Democrat like you've been voting for 20, 30, 40 years, or maybe you should try something new?
Anybody want to take a swing at, speaking of swing states, why Wisconsin seems to still be in play for Joe Biden at this moment? Now, there's a lot of time between now and the election, and the other swing states seem to be really moving towards Trump.
They do. That New York Times poll, at least among registered voters, was pretty eye-opening for both the Trump and the Biden campaigns when you look at all the other states. And here, we're always like, 2 points, 1 point within the margin of error.
No surprise there.
There's negatives on both sides. There's a lot of dissatisfaction with both Biden and with both Trump. And there's a lot of negatives for Trump when you look at abortion, when you look at healthcare, and when you look at the court system and his trials playing out. Those are a lot of negatives for this 10, 20, 30,000 group of independent voters that are really going to determine the election here in Wisconsin.
Anybody think Dane County's not going to set new records for turnout in November?
Oh, I mean, I think it will. I think Dane County is going to set records. I mean, Milwaukee has a tremendous voting power, but it just has to use it.
When we think about this election now, we have all the Trump stuff, and every time I come in to do the show this last few weeks and months, I see the live coverage of the Trump trials, and that's an ongoing story. How much of that legal issues for the former president will impact, do you think, his campaign presence? He's still doing like Saturday night events, like I think he was in New Jersey this weekend. That seems like just juggling that schedule, and he's an older guy. I mean, he's 78, something like that. He is certainly going to be impacted by that schedule. I can't see a scenario where he's able to campaign as Joe Biden will be able to, with the freedom of schedule that he has.
It is wild. I'm trying to imagine campaigning around a trial and having to be in court. And
not
then
just one trial, maybe many trials.
Yeah. I think that Donald Trump does benefit from, he has some diehard supporters who are going to back him pretty much through anything. I think where it's going to hurt him is the independents. And again, like suburban women, people who, obviously Wisconsin, when Roe was struck down, that was a huge flashpoint here that Democrats have talked about a lot.
I mean, and talk about conventional campaigning, that doesn't go with Trump ever, right?
No.
2016, 2020. So he's capitalizing right now on the trial, whether he's coming here on a Wednesday or doing a series of local television interviews at 7 a.m. before he goes to court. It's just a new era we're in, and Trump is looking to embrace that.
Yeah, the schedule just seems nightmarish. I mean, for a young man to do that, and let alone the two gentlemen that are running for president, I cannot imagine keeping up that pace for the next months ahead. It's a blistering schedule. All right, take a break. Matt Smith from Channel 12. I didn't call you Brad. How about that? And Mary Spacuzza. Easy name to remember as a fellow Italian. We'll continue the conversation. We got the bottom of the hour news coming up with Connie Weber, local, and the latest from ABC. That's all coming up next on the Political Power Hour, WTMJ. This is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi. Salute to Service highlights the heroic stories of first responders right here in Wisconsin. Thank you to all of those who nominated your heroes. Listen to all of the incredible stories on our Salute to Service special program Monday, May 27th from 9 to 11 a.m. And again at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. we will air the best moments from the entire week. It's Salute to Service, only heard here on WTMJ.
It's Steve Scaffidi Salute to Service, presented by Waterstone Bank and sponsored by Outdoor Living Unlimited.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi. For Universal Windows Direct, spring is here. You bet it is. This weekend was amazing, and it's only going to get hotter from here. Do not cool off the outside. Call my guys at Universal Windows Direct. Super spatial technology. What is that? It keeps the edge of the glass warmer, holds the window seal longer, and makes the windows last up to, get this, 5 times longer than other window systems. That's why it makes perfect sense for our weather in Wisconsin or beyond. Plus, Universal Windows Direct backs it up with a true 20-year warranty. Call today. I give you the number a couple times. 414-410-2000. For every 2 windows you buy, 2 free. 4 free, 2020. Get it? There's no limits. Plus, if you need it, 0% financing for 60 months. 414-410-2000 or go to UWD.com. UWD.com. Like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
Good news, bad news. The good news, inflation today is nothing like it's been in the past few years. The bad news, lower inflation doesn't mean lower prices. In fact, one recent study says investors still consider inflation their single biggest threat. If you're concerned how inflation might affect your legacy, your financial freedom, or your confidence, meet with the team at Annex Wealth Management. We're fee-only fiduciaries. We'll build a plan together and guide you on the steps to take to reach the retirement you desire. Annex Wealth Management. Know the difference. AnnexWealth.com.
People saw me and assumed I couldn't work. They only saw a disability, but I was ready to work. I am dependable, trainable, and productive. Then someone decided to believe in me and say yes.
And once you say yes, Thinkability Wisconsin will be there, providing transition and workforce support for people with disabilities and their employers to help shape a better future for all. It all starts when you say yes. Join the movement at thinkabilitywi.org.
WTMJ's Eric Bilstead here with spring here and the warmer temps in the air. This is a great time to be doing all the fun outdoor stuff, right? Like the hiking, the biking, maybe going to the lake. But if your joints are flaring up, you may be having second thoughts maybe about hitting those 18 holes. Well, if you're tired of the achy joints, here's what you do. You call QC Kinetics. Do it before you agree to surgery or steroids or any other medication. It's what tens of thousands of patients are doing. Take Abby, for instance. Constant back pain. She had nonstop ice packs, steroids. It was exhausting for her, but thanks to QC Kinetics, Abby feels like a new person. No back pain thanks to QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. Call QC Kinetics. I'd love to be talking about your story next, your lasting relief with no downtime. Call QC Kinetics. Consultation is free. Hear about it now. 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. QC Kinetics.
Thanks for taking the time to tune in. Political Power Hour. We do it Monday through Friday at WTMJ. I enjoy everyday conversation. So somebody asked me, like, what's the strategy? So we look at politics in a lot of different ways. Monday, journalists. Tuesday, advocacy journalists, sort of a different breed, right? Wednesday, public safety. And obviously, we're leading up to the Salute to Service Awards next week. I'm looking forward to that. We're doing a lot of interviews this week with all of our honorees. Thursday, legal edition. So we will talk to former judges, Supreme Court justices, attorneys, local and otherwise. Rick Essenberg, I think, is our guest on Thursday. And then Friday, the origin story of the Political Power Hour with Bill McCoshen, Republican strategist, and Joe Zepecki on the Democratic side. It's a fun way to kind of weave through the stories that we all read about, hear about, in some cases live. I want to ask you an excitement question. So, Mary Spacuzza, you're a Journal Sentinel reporter. Matt Smith, you're Channel 12 political director. And either one of you can jump in first. The excitement level of the people you interview about this election, and you can be brutally honest, they're not happy about it, to they're geeked and they want to vote.
Go to a Trump rally, everyone is ready. They are ready to go to the polls. This is the most important election of their lifetime. These are the most diehard Trump supporters, and they are still coming out, thousands by thousands, attending the rallies just in Waukesha a couple weeks ago. My reporting on the north side of Milwaukee's black voters, Democrats, they're not as enthused right now. It's going to take some convincing, some arm twisting. Overall, I would say, C.
C. What grade would you give, Mary, the people you're talking to?
There's definitely a difference between like excitement, which I think that excitement is waning. I do think that there are people who feel like this is the most important election of their lifetime.
They
and there
always
are some,
say that, though.
Right. I know. It's crazy. However, I mean, there are some people who are like, I'm not thrilled with everything Joe Biden has done. However, I feel like if I don't vote for him, it will be the end of democracy as we know it. And so I'm going to go vote for him. Then there are, of course, the Trump supporters who are like, make our country great again, and we need to bring Trump back. So I don't know if it's enthusiasm, but maybe it's like the end is nigh if I don't vote for my guy.
Enthusiasm. Will the voters have it? We will find out in just a few months. And, of course, the big RNC. I'll ask you a couple of RNC questions in the next half hour. Mary Spacuzza and Matt Smith. Here's the latest local news. But before we get to that, the latest from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. Prosecutors in New York are questioning Michael Cohen, former President Trump's one-time attorney who claims he facilitated the $130,000 payment to adult actress Stormy Daniels. It's part of the Trump criminal hush money trial, and ABC's Catherine Falder says,
what they're doing, at least it seems now from our team in court, is they're setting up Cohen's job with Trump, and they'll, of course, ultimately get to that payment. But prosecutors really have to work hard here to establish Cohen's credibility in a way. From the start of this trial, they acknowledge that Cohen has a credibility issue, so it will be interesting to see how they end up doing that here.
As the Israeli military continues what it's calling a limited operation in the Gaza city of Rafah, the UN's Refugees Agency says 360,000 people have fled Rafah in the last week. And the largest remaining piece of metal from the collapsed Key Bridge in Baltimore is set to be demolished and removed today. This is ABC News.
Citing Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:31. A teenager is dead following a shooting Saturday evening, Milwaukee's North Side, 21st and Clark. No arrests yet. Work continues to get services back online at Ascension hospitals in Wisconsin after that massive cyber attack last week. Over the weekend, the hospital system said progress was being made, but it's going to take some time. FBI has said they're aware of the situation. The attack has led to canceled appointments and delayed care at Ascension hospitals across the nation. Project Clean and Green comes to Milwaukee's 13th district this week. The annual program provides free bulky item collection runs on your typical garbage collection day for residents on the city's far south side. Collection crews will take up to 6 cubic yards per property of unwanted furniture, mattresses, or household items. They'll also collect garden debris that's placed in paper yard waste bags. Appliances, electronics, and hazardous waste will not be collected. Time for some news about your money in the WTMJ Annex Wealth Management Market Update. Dow is up 74 points, 39,587. The Nasdaq is up 29 at 16,370. The S&P 500 is up 3 points at 5,225. Annex Comprehensive Wealth, Annex Private Client, Annex Ignite Financial Planning at every level. Details at annexwealth.com. Taking a look at your roads now with your WTMJ Johnson & Sons Paving Time Saver traffic. I-43 94 north at National Avenue. The right lane was blocked due to a broken down vehicle. That has been cleared. Look for a little bit of slowing. I-8 94 westbound, the Mitchell interchange to the Hale interchange. That's about a 10-minute drive this morning. Your WTMJ 5-day forecast. Increasing cloudiness today with afternoon showers, maybe a storm this afternoon after a high of 73. Temperatures are going to drop. A few showers overnight, mostly cloudy, low 46. Showers early tomorrow. Decreasing cloudiness, cool, breezy. Highs in the mid-50s to the mid-60s. Sunny on Wednesday, highs 61 to 69. Increasing cloudiness, chance for rain Thursday. Highs in the mid-60s, lakeside, 71 inland. Partly cloudy Friday, slight chance of showers. Highs 68 to 73. Madison's at 66, Green Bay 61, Milwaukee 70 degrees. I'm Connie Weber, citing Unlimited, WTMJ News Time, 9:33.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano inviting you to spend New Year's at sea and offering you an amazing deal if you book the Vinny Cruise now. Join my family and me on Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas, a Western Caribbean cruise leaving December 29th. Right now you can save up to $875 per person if you book through my partners, Expedia Cruises Brookfield. It's the only place you can get this deal right now. We'll stop in Mexico, Honduras, Royal Caribbean's private island in the Bahamas, and let's spend some time together. A welcome cocktail party for our group, dinner, a full group excursion on Roatan Island, a day of sloths, monkeys, zip lining, snorkeling, and a delicious local island-style lunch included. Our group from Wisconsin rings in the new year then together at sea. Enjoy Christmas here at home and then let's set sail for the trip of a lifetime. Couples, bring the kids or grandma and grandpa. How about bringing the entire family? Email me for more information from Expedia Cruises Brookfield. Vince at WTMJ.com. That's Vince at WTMJ.com.
Come visit, learn, and discover at the recently opened Food and Farm Exploration Center near Stevens Point in Plover, Wisconsin. The 50,000 square foot Science and Technology Center is a place to take the entire family. Experience over 60 interactive exhibits, a children's play area, demonstration farm fields, and home to the world's largest potato masher. The Food and Farm Exploration Center is a place for connecting with food and those who grow it. Just a short drive from Milwaukee. Plan your visit today at explorefoodandfarm.org.
Hey, WTMJ's John Mercure here. If you've got water in your house, you need Guthrie and Fry. We've got their water softener. We get their salt delivery. We've got reverse osmosis that protects the water in our house. They've got the best people. They've got the best products. It's Guthrie and Fry. They treat their clients like their family. I feel that every time they're in our house, you need Guthrie and Fry. Fixed rental rates, convenient salt delivery programs. It's gfwater.com.
Better water makes a big difference. Guthrie and Fry.
We're blasted into the Monday political universe with Matt Smith, political director at Channel 12, Mary Spacuzza, the Journal Sentinel, and we're going to have later on in this half hour, have her tell us about her new podcast, which I'm fascinated by.
Can't wait.
A story that she's covered extensively about your cousin Augie, and we'll get to all of that in a little bit. Was it last week? Was it the week before? The election director in Milwaukee, Claire Woodall, formerly Claire Woodall-Vaugh, if I remember right, let go. Now, you talked to Mayor Johnson. Matter of fact, that morning, even though the interview was scheduled weeks before. I don't remember what he said exactly, but what do we know about this removal of a important piece of the election process administration right before a big election?
Yeah. So listen, the mayor has this authority, right? When he has a new term to come in and kind of shake things up and replace whoever he wants to replace. We are now less than 6 months out from the election. So listen, he told me that I asked him, was there any wrongdoing? Was there anything criminally wrong? And he said, no. If you look at the case of the former deputy in terms of the absentee ballots and the charges that she underwent, he said no. And I said, well, is there anything else? And he goes, well, I'm not going to discuss personnel issues. So there was some behind the scenes stuff that has played out that I don't think publicly we have heard the whole story yet.
Mary, you're reporting on this story. You have reported on this story. The new executive director is Paulina Gutierrez. What do we know?
Well, I've been very lucky to team up with my colleague Allison Durr on this one. Paulina, I don't think anybody's saying she's not ready for the job. However, she's really going to be trial by fire. I mean, she was hired in 2023 as the deputy. She has not done a major presidential election before, and the level of turnout that we see from a Supreme Court race to a presidential, it's like off the charts. So obviously there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Milwaukee and Milwaukee ballots, absentee ballots, Milwaukee voters, like we saw last time. So I think I guess time will tell how it goes, but it is definitely an interesting change to make 6 months before an election.
It does interject into the story of 2024, certainly the election and beyond, because we know what happened in 2020. When you have moving pieces this close to an election, now you've introduced that as part of the narrative, right? So, they put a new person in, and if anything happens that's not perfectly in line with protocols, election protocols, and the rule of law, Matt, this just opens up a whole can of worms.
Perception sometimes is reality, right? And no matter what way you come at this doesn't look good. Less than 6 months out in the state's largest city that has been under immense scrutiny since 2020. When you look at absentee ballots and central count and everything that goes into any conspiracy theory or any fact that happened, the fact of the matter is it looks like there's uncertainty in the state's largest city. Whether that is true or not, sometimes, as we all know, perception takes a hold. So the new chief is going to have a lot of work to do to instill that confidence that these elections are fair and accurate, as everyone has said, post-2020.
Mary, given the short tenure of Paulina Gutierrez, I mean, anybody who steps into this kind of a role, do we know what her background was previous to when she came on board in 2023 that would qualify her or prepare her for what is going to be a very high-stress, high-tension presidential election?
I know she worked for the state. She was with Department of Corrections and played different roles for state government. So she's certainly not a newcomer to public service or government. That said, Claire was subject to death threats at different points,
that's
hate
the
mail
unfortunate
campaigns.
part of those jobs.
This is not a relaxing time to be an election official at any level, I would say, local, state, anything. So I think, it's hard to say when you're facing that level of scrutiny how prepared you are because you don't know what's coming at you.
And, one of the crazy things about what happened in 2020 and the aftermath is one of your colleagues, I think it was Molly Beck, reported on the story of a small town in Wisconsin. I don't remember the town. They are getting rid of electronic voting. It's all paper ballots. Kind of a shocking development. I actually made it my show poll. You can find it on Twitter if you'd like. Just what you think about that. It's an interesting sort of de-evolution of the process, right? Most of us who embrace and love technology, I think it's more accurate. I think paper. We saw you're a youngster, Matt, but the hanging chads in 2000.
Yes,
I mean that's paper. that wasn't necessarily the best way to do it.
What I think it was a town of like 700.
Yes.
Some
yeah.
And now the feds are looking into it.
Yes.
Molly reported this morning. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting because, there was the dangling chads in Florida. Then moves to electronic and people want to inspect the machines and there's all this skepticism. So I guess no matter what the technology is, there's some kind of fear or suspicion that it's not being done correctly.
As my legal advisor, go ahead, Matt.
I was going to say, I was in Fond du Lac County. This was probably a couple years now, post 2020, and the clerk said they were using Dominion machines, and for 2022, some voters came in and literally ripped up their ballots before putting it into the Dominion machine because they didn't trust it because of all the conspiracies that were out there, and they just walked away and didn't vote.
Yeah, I think one of the requirements of all of us voters is that we maintain our calm demeanors and not go into a voting poll area and act like lunatics, because that's not going to make anybody happy, and it's going to certainly add more tension and drama than we already need, and we've, of course, seen what's happened in 2020. All right, after the break, it's typically the great time, end of the year, we have the commencement ceremonies, so we've had protests, and now, of course, we get the commencement speeches. I'm going to play a little bit of Jerry Seinfeld, who I thought nailed it in about a 17-minute speech at Duke University. We'll play a little bit of that, and we'll get our guests, Matt Smith and Mary Spacuzza's comments on all of that and the controversies of graduation and protests and the war in the Middle East after this on the Political Power Hour on WTMJ.
Get the beat of the Bucks straight from a fan favorite and Bucks legend. Tap into Here District with Marcus Johnson, a Bucks Plus audio production. Your weekly pulse on the Milwaukee Bucks and conversations with the biggest names in basketball. This week, Marcus and his son Chris react to NBA headlines and start to look ahead to the Bucks offseason. Find Here District now on Bucks.com/plus, the Bucks app, or wherever you get your podcast.
Hey, this is WTMJ Steve Scaffidi for Heiser Automotive. We are currently driving a 2023 Chevy Equinox. Now, the plan is to test drive this and see what it's like, all the bells and whistles. This one has auto start-stop technology. It's got great gas mileage, 26 city, 31 on the highway, all the great cool stuff that you expect from Chevy, that brand, and Heiser. And then in a couple months, we're going to buy a Chevy Equinox, because that's the one my wife likes, and she's going to match her experience driving this one from Heiser to her eventual order with Heiser. That can be your story as well. They have 5 great locations. You can see all their vehicles pre-owned and new at Heiser.com. And all the great programs, I always mention these: Safe and Sound, Vehicle Exchange. Don't love it? Exchange it. How cool is that? Roadside Assistance for Life, and so much more. You can visit Heiser.com for all the details on that. You need servicing, all their great locations open for that. Also can be reserved online. That's why they say every day, folks. That's why I've been a customer and a spokesperson. That's why they say today's your day.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano here for Orthopedic Associates of Wisconsin. Just because you're going to meet with a surgeon doesn't mean surgery is your only option. Dr. Mike Nolte.
Patients get diagnosed with a spine issue. Their doctor tells them you have degenerative disc disease, you have a disc herniation. Your mind immediately jumps to, gee, do I need surgery?
Yeah.
The good news is that the vast majority of patients that I see and the majority of conditions that I can see can be successfully treated without surgery.
Find out the options you have by visiting orthowisconsin.com.
The Midwest's best baseball and softball training facility and retail center is here in New Berlin, and it's ready for you and your team. From little leaguers to hardcore players and trainers, this is the place you'll want to be.
You can't beat Burkhart.
WTMJ's Vince Vitrano for 2-Day Painting. Nothing worse than a contractor's job dragging on for weeks. At 2-Day Painting, it's all in-house. I know, they were just in my house. Beautifully finished walls and ceilings. The woodwork. We had them do the crown molding and the window frames. Tired-looking wood now looks amazing. Their in-house color consultant helped my wife and me choose the perfect tones for every surface. John, our project manager, communicated with me every step of the way. I'll never do a job like this myself again. 2-Day Painting. That's 2daypainting.com.
Jeff Levering and wife Ashley love their patio door from Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin.
It's so bright, it's so clear. I can see the kids outside playing, and it makes it comfortable for the life we live.
I love the roll screen. The fact that the screen is on the inside and no drafts, it's a game changer.
Right now, get 0% interest-free financing for up to 48 months when you order by May 31st. Set your free in-home consultation at PellaWI.com.
Certain restrictions apply. That's 5/31/2024.
Thank you. Oh my God, what a beautiful day. What a beautiful class. We love you guys. I am here today at the gracious invitation of President Price and the Duke Board of Trustees because after spending 4 years at what is considered one of the finest institutions of higher education in the world, they apparently feel that perhaps some light entertainment will get you all to the final realization, you know, I think I've really had enough of this place.
So Jerry Seinfeld talking to Duke University graduates. He had about 12 protesters that walked out, and obviously that's linked to the campus protests across not just our country, but across the world related to the war in Gaza. I liked, and I'll start with you, Mary. I like the fact that somebody like Jerry Seinfeld he understood what was happening. There was about 12 protesters that I think one of them had a flag. There was some booing and some, a disruption in the ceremonies. And that happened, and then he just went on with his speech, and I thought it was a 17-minute perfect commencement address because he didn't make that the story. That, from my perspective, that's what a commencement speech should be about. You embrace what's happening, understand what's happening, but don't make that the focus of your. Because what I just saw over the weekend, most graduates, 80-some%, they're not fixated on the Middle East. They're fixated on all the other things that Americans are worried about. Your thoughts?
I got to go listen to his speech. I missed it with Mother's Day and everything going on.
Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Thank you so much. So I think, it seems like a really tough year to be a commencement speaker with everything going on.
Some places have canceled them.
Right. And while you cited the statistic of, the graduates who are not focused on the Middle East, there are some who are deeply, deeply focused on the Middle East. And that is like all they want to talk about and all they want to hear about and debate. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see in these other commencement speeches as they happen, how they go and how many interruptions. I noticed at UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee has been, having discussions with protesters. Thankfully, my colleagues have been covering that and doing a great job.
And
as well
by
as
the way, breaking news, they're gonna actually break down their camps, and I think Tuesday morning is the deadline, and they're gonna go on about their way. I think they had 3 different negotiation sessions. I mean, this is a local story. I think UWM, I don't know that there's a model in how you deal with this, but it seemed like theirs was not fraught with peril like some of the other ones.
Well, and listen, the goal from the administration and from the UW system as a whole was to get this wrapped up before commencement, before graduation, so there weren't scenes like we saw at other places across the country, or they weren't forced to cancel graduation. We heard there was a couple boos at UW-Madison this past week, but the goal of Milwaukee ahead of commencement this upcoming weekend was to get this resolved so that this debate out in the tents and the lawn wouldn't spill over into commencement. That was the goal of the administration.
Either one of you can jump on this, and I realize this is a tough question for journalists to answer, but divesting from Israel, an important ally of the United States forever, since 1948 at least, is that something that a university in the United States should negotiate with protesters? I don't know if that's the right thing we should be doing.
The UW system would say no. I had Jay Rothman on the show, not yesterday, but a week ago, and he said, listen, what these students are protesting in some regard is foreign affairs, foreign relations, not university relations. So this list of demands, at least from the administration's perspective, was a non-starter for them on some of these fronts, because he said, listen, they're protesting the wrong people here. That's at least from the administration's view.
Also, some breaking news from the UN. They have revised the death toll in Gaza by half, saying that not surprising, Hamas has inflated their numbers. None of those are good deaths because there's innocence involved here, but that is the price of war. We're going to take a break. Mary is going to update us on her new podcast, which I'm going to be fascinated by because I'm a podcast guy. And we'll see what Matt's going to be working on this week, and Mary, what she's going to be working on this week as journalists. The journalist edition of the Political Power Hour you're listening to right here on WTMJ.
The biggest names in the basketball world.
Dame Dollar Lillard.
Having fun and honest conversations.
He puts it in the shoe, right? And sets the tone for brothers and sisters and family.
Every week, Thanasis Adetokounmpo sits down with special guests on Thanalysis Show. Presented by Carbless Ready-to-Drink Cocktails.
Fantastic.
Find Thanalysis Show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And on YouTube by searching Thanalysis Show.
Hey, this is WTMJ, Steve Scaffidi for Badger Fence. My wife and I were deciding to put a fence up, and we went with Badger. Beautiful cedar fence, about 5 years old now. We just looked at it over the weekend. Looks fantastic. They've been installing fences since 1945. Proud member of the Better Business Bureau, A+ rating, as well as a member of the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. Privacy, security, wide choice of fence styles. Those are the things you need to look at when you're choosing a fence for your property. Badger Fence is the right company. Licensed, bonded, insured. That matters. Finest materials in the industry, whether you want wood, which is what we chose, ornamental, chain link, PVC, they can help you choose what's right for your fencing project. And when it comes to quality, unmatched and at the most competitive prices. We love our new wood fence from Badger Fence, and we chose them. You should too. To set up an appointment to talk with Badger Fence about your project, go to badgerfence.com. Badgerfence.com. Tom Scaffidi from WTMJ sent you.
When you're due for tire service, visit richlands.com for the location nearest you.
We'll give you free flat tire repair on every tire we install. No questions asked. I'm Brett Matchke with Richlands. You're due for service.
Richlands.
Suit up for the $800,000 Sports Car Series at Potawatomi Casino Hotel Milwaukee. April through May, score free play, cash, one of 4 new Toyota GR86s, or a new Toyota Supra. Play with your club card to earn entries, 5 times the entries on drawing days, and when the Milwaukee Brewers play at home. Got what it takes? Slugger, only at Potawatomi. For more details, visit paysbig.com/sportscar. Must be 21 and a club member to play.
What do you call a sectional that embodies class, beauty, and sophistication?
That's easy, Arvid. We name it after me.
You think it should be called the Ben sectional.
Didn't he say class, beauty, and sophistication?
Yeah.
That's obviously me.
Right.
Actually, somewhere along the way, this sofa was nicknamed the Penny Sectional.
Because it represents everything Penny Mustard strives to be.
It truly is the most magnificent sofa I've ever seen.
The Penny Sectional transforms from a majestic piece of art into one of the most comfortable sofas for casual conversation or reclined relaxation.
Is there anything at Penny Mustard that we can name after me?
How about the men's room?
Nah, that's already named after someone else.
Who?
John.
The Penny Sectional, American-made with ultra-resilient pre-crushed foam and buttery soft top-grain leather options, starting at $62.45 at Penny Mustard.
Showrooms in Milwaukee and Chicago.
PennyMustard.com.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
WTMJ, W277CV, and WKTI HD2 Milwaukee from the Annex Wealth Management Studios. This is News Radio WTMJ, a Good Karma brand station.
Few minutes left of the Monday edition of the Political Power Hour. Steve Scaffidi along with Matt Smith, Channel 12 Political Director. Mary Spacuzza, outstanding reporter from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Mary, you get to go first. So you got a couple things going on. One, your podcast. Tell us about it.
Right. So I had my story, My Cousin Augie, about the car bombing murder of my cousin when I was a little girl. That came out in late January. And all along, we had been planning to do a podcast. My colleague Bill Schultz and I were recording. He was doing all the work, recording the interviews. I'm not going to lie. He was with me on every interview, recording, getting great sound. And we just had so much from everybody from Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone, who was here in Milwaukee in '78 investigating.
It's a fascinating story, and if you haven't read it, you can still find it at JS Online. It's It's amazing. And your cousin killed by essentially organized crime.
Right. Well, thank you so much. So more people have actually come forward. One actually messaged into the WTMJ chat line when I was on and said he was one of the first responders on the scene.
Yeah.
So we went and interviewed him. So more people have come forward who, this story touched them in different ways. Some who responded to the scene of the crime, some who investigated the case. And we just had so much that we really wanted to kind of include everybody's role in this investigation. So the goal is to launch in actually next month, and one episode a week. And so stay tuned.
And if it's anything like the true crime that I'm now hooked on, it'll be one of those must-listen-tos. And
Absolutely.
I'm a podcast guy, and every weekend while I'm doing my landscaping and garden work, I'm listening to a podcast. So I look forward to that one.
Thank you. This is a whole new world to me. So
all right, Matt Smith, what do you have coming up? What are you looking forward to covering this week?
Oh, man, it's always a busy week in Wisconsin, right? When we look back from a Friday to a Monday, it's like, wow, what did we just go through in this state? We have a vice presidential visit this upcoming week. There's a whole bunch of stuff.
What do we know about the visit?
She's going to be here in Milwaukee, Vice President Kamala Harris, her fourth stop to the state this year alone. I think there's going to be a competition, right?
Yeah.
Trump, Biden, the vice president, who's going to be here the most. She's going to be in Milwaukee talking with black voters, really looking to mobilize that base.
We need like an Indiana Jones map of all the planes going in with the little tracks of where they're landing.
I mean, seriously, it's almost like every other week there's something happening, and we're still, what are we, 5 months? Yeah. 6 months.
Or every week, yeah.
Yeah.
Close.
All right, closing thoughts on this Monday edition. Anything off the radar that you're thinking you might see in the world of news this week? Any big stories that they're swirling out there? Nothing? Protests shutting down in Milwaukee. Protests in Madison. What do we think?
We have Supreme Court arguments happening this morning right now as we speak on the
ballot box
boxes.
question.
That's going to be transformative no matter what the court decides, because once again, another election change less than 6 months out from the election. It's almost whiplash for voters, right? Like what's legal, what's not legal. Everything is in the courts.
Interesting you say that, because my legal advisors and guests always say there will be lawyers and there will be court cases. And I don't think anything in the news suggests otherwise as we watch not live testimony, but the replay, the transcript of the Michael Cohen testimony in the Trump hush money trial in New York. Mary Spacuzza, get that podcast done.
Yeah.
Matt Smith.
Working on it.
We'll see you on TV and on the Upfront show, which is brilliant, by the way, politics statewide. And Tuesday, my advocacy journalists return, Christian Snyder and Dan Schaefer. I'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Race fans, start your engines. It's time to make summer